Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May in some order, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr. What I want today is fit, because fit is everything. Optimal environment to max out is everything. Bill, look at that fit today on you. Which QB team fit can make the biggest impact in the draft?
Going with the Patriots, and I am going with Drake May with the 3rd overall pick in the draft. People are sleeping on how close the Patriots actually are. Second half of last season, they don't have their 2 best defensive players. They have the worst average starting position of any team in football because their quarterbacks are terrible. They still led the league. They were the best defense in football in points allowed per possession and EPA per play. They were an excellent defense already. Their quarterbacks were so bad that even competent quarterback play is going to get them better. And I know the personnel does not look good right now, but remember, nobody was talking about Nico Collins and Tank Dell as being difference makers for CJ Stroud. A great quarterback made them difference makers, whether it's Tyquan Thornton, whether it's Juju Smith-Schuster, whether it's any of the guys in that offense. I think
you're very high on Drake May, and you're very high on New England. Life without Bill Belichick, it sounds like, as well. Marcel Louis-Jacques, I turn to you. Which QB that's going to be drafted and the team is the best fit to make an impact?
Man, I hate disagreeing with Bill Barnwell, but that personnel, offensive personnel, is not there yet. This is a wide receiver-rich draft. They could improve, but right now, it doesn't look good. So I'm going to go with the chalk pick. Caleb Williams, number 1 overall to the Chicago Bears. He's got 2 1,200-plus yard receivers in Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. He's got a 1,000-yard rusher in DeAndre Swift. He's got a tight end in Cole Kmet who can catch passes. He's an adept pass catcher. They've got the draft capital to improve the offensive line. Like, this is a ready-made offense. If Caleb Williams is who everybody says he is, who Caleb Williams says he is, then he should be a success right away. Take him out the package. He's ready to go. No batteries needed.
David Dennis Jr.
Yeah, I agree. The biggest long-term on-the-field impact is Caleb Williams. But in terms of the most immediate impact on draft night, that's Michael Penix Jr. because something wacky is going to happen on draft night with this kid. There's a lot of movement, and the first big move seems to be somebody either moving up or moving back to get this guy. Will the Patriots move back to get him at 11 or 12? Will the Giants, jump out the window and get him early? Will the Falcons do the same? Will there be some trades? There's going to be somebody who is going to make a risky move or a shrewd move, moving around on draft night to get this guy. And from what we've seen the last month or so, and some of the prospects of him, it looks like it will pay off.
Frank Isola.
With quarterbacks, it's never where you're drafted, it's who drafts you. So to Marcel's point, it's one thing about Caleb Williams, he's going to the Bears. How's the Bears' history with quarterbacks? How's the Commanders' history with quarterbacks? I'll give you an example. Zach Wilson, 2, and then Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs trade up, and who's his coach? Andy Reid. So a lot of times it's where you're drafted. I'll tell you what, I actually think the Giants...
Wait, hold on a second. Would Zach Wilson have had the same success in Kansas City as Patrick Mahomes if they were? I want to hear your answer.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you what. Yeah. He wasn't going to have it in New York there. And how about Justin Fields in Chicago last year? I want to go to a place where I know a guy can work with a quarterback. That's why the quarterback of Michigan, maybe to the Giants.
You're not
the worst
saying Zach Wilson in Kansas City would have the same success.
No, but where you go is
important. So you're looking further down the draft as well. Just a follow-up question here, because we do have some quarterbacks who are very well seasoned. I'll say it like that. The COVID year is part of that. They stayed in school. They had more eligibility. But we're looking at with Nix, with Daniels, and then with Penix Jr., 3 of the oldest quarterbacks in age that could come into the NFL. And historically, that has not been a great thing, Bill Barnwell. Brandon Weeden is an example of a first-round quarterback at 28. Joe Burrow is the other side of it at 23. You see that as any plus or minus in any direction?
You want to get younger players. They're going to age better. They're going to get into their second contracts at a younger age. But Brandon Weeden was older because he went to go play baseball, if I'm not
That was
mistaken.
just part of that chart I was showing you right there. But the fact that many of these more seasoned quarterbacks, if they would have boomed already, they would have been coming out and drafted earlier, is something
This is going to happen more often because we're going to see quarterbacks transfer more often in the transfer portal era. We're going to see guys move around. Penix moved around. This is going to be a thing we see more often now as guys get used to NIL and get used to the transfer.
We started with quarterbacks. It's a quarterback draft. We go to wide receiver now, as Marcel said. It's a wide receiver draft. But now another chart, and this is from ESPN Stat King Paul Hembo. Wide receiver, the biggest swing and miss of all positions in the first round. Look at it right there, Marcel. So while I ask you for the one receiver and or team in need of a receiver you're tracking, I also ask you, is it worth the risk?
For the right players, yeah, it's worth the risk. If you can get a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., if you can get a guy like Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze, yeah, absolutely. It's the guys after that top tier where that risk starts to come into play. But I'm going to cop out a little bit to the prompt here, and I'm going to say the receiver I'm watching the most is whoever falls to the Chargers or the Bills. Those are the best quarterback situations of any wide receiver needing team, especially the Chargers, who've had 2,000-yard receivers get out of there this offseason. I think it's an easy opportunity for 100 targets and 1,000 yards for whatever rookie enters that situation.
And that's at number 5 with the Chargers. David Dennis Jr., to you on the wide receiver or team fit, and is it worth the risk?
Rome Odunze, who looks like he may be going to Chicago, not very secretive that they did with Caleb Williams flying together and posting on social media about how much they love each other. 24 contested